Hello travelers! Today we're still speculating and guessing what the unreleased nations and archons will be like. Last week we talked about Fontaine and Fossilor, but today it's Natlan time. As I said last time, I know that a lot has been leaked about Fontaine, but in this case I actually don't know how much has been leaked about Natlan. Regardless, I have a strict no leaks policy in my channel. That means that this video does not contain any leaks whatsoever, especially because I don't read nor watch them. As a consequence, this means that I don't want to know about leaks, so please avoid talking about them in the comments. If you just need to talk about them, then write leaks in capital letters, leave a few empty lines, and then write your comments so those who don't want spoilers, me included, can easily avoid unwanted information. If you don't follow this rule and just write about the leaks for everyone to see, I will instantly delete the comment. As always, this is a theory video. I would say like I normally do that I use information available in the game, but well... Anyway, since my videos are mainly based on my interpretation and on my research, what I say does not represent the official lore of the game unless it gets confirmed in later updates. Okay, let's start this video with what we know so far about Natlan. Alright, let's move to the next topic. What? I didn't say anything? Well, we don't really know anything at all. We just know that there are volcanic hot springs from Aikawa Susumu, the owner of the Aisa bathhouse in Inazuma. He went to Natlan and fell in love with the hot springs and their healing power, so he came back to Inazuma and opened a bathhouse. This could potentially mean that they will introduce a new mechanics and the hot springs will heal your characters. Aikawa also says that Natlan is nothing like Inazuma, which has oceans running it. It's a country of red-hot passion, both in name and climate, and the temperature is scorching, which, yeah, of course, there are volcanoes there. It's probably gonna be a place very similar to Dragonspine, only scorching instead of freezing. Another NPC that talks about Natlan is Mikawa Akane, who once again told us about the volcanic hot springs of Natlan. The last NPC that talks about Natlan is Shosen, who told us that Natlan warriors practice shadow boxing. There is boxing against an imaginary opponent. Well, there's Ting as well, but she just says that she traveled to Mount Satsumeru, Natlan and Fontaine. Then there's a Lava Walker artifact set, which talks about Marijivari and its volcanoes and lava. But where else can we find volcanoes on Tevat except for Natlan? So this would confirm that Marijivari should be close to Natlan, more specifically between Natlan and Sumeru, since there is supposed to be sand, ashes and lava. The only other reference about Natlan can be found in the manga, since Vanessa is a member of a wandering tribe that left Natlan. We learned that the Pyro Archon's name is Murata or Murata, that she is the god of war and the lady of fire. A few people from Natlan are called Muratan, and they are a strong and proud people who dwell on the volcanic slope of the west and are blessed with a head of fiery red hair. We also learned that Murata can be pretty obnoxious as well. And that's actually it, so I'll just move on to the next topic, which is figuring out the Pyro Archon's elemental skill and burst through the Pyro enemies and Pyro user enemies attacks. Briefly, if you didn't watch my Fontaine video, I think there is a correlation between the attacks of the enemies, especially the elemental beings, and the Archons. Before talking about the enemies' attacks, I need to clarify something. Most of the Pyro enemies' attacks deal AoE damage, but I split them into 4 different categories based on the animation: Kaboom, Skyfall, Volcano, and Simple AoE. I did this because there's probably something behind the fact that these AoE attacks look very similar divided like that. So, we have 11 Kaboom attacks, and this means that the enemy absorbs Pyro energy and just goes Kaboom. 14 Skyfall attacks, which involve something coming from the sky crashing into the ground. One in particular is interesting not only because of the animation but also because of its name, the Solar Orb of the Abyss Lector Fathomless Flame. You'll understand why this may be important later on. There are 8 Volcano attacks, which are like fiery geysers coming out from the ground, 10 generic AoE attacks, 10 spinning attacks that I honestly don't think I'll consider too much, since they can simply be normal attacks that the enemy would have, like the Kairagi Fiery Might. He uses a katana, so a spinning attack would be obvious and normal. 2 flamethrower attacks, again probably negligible as well, and 4 unique attacks. The large Pyro Slime's Reignition and the Pyro Whopper Flowers Recharge, which are very similar. the Abyss Lecter Fathomless Flames brand of the Abyssal Flame that marks the active character and deals damage to the entire party, and the shield regeneration of the Shadowy Husk Standard Bearer that gives him a shield if the active character has a shield as well. Also remember this enemy because his design is going to be relevant later on in the video. So, after the enemy's attacks analysis, we could speculate that the Pyro Archon definitely uses AoE attacks. Her elemental burst, which may be the easiest and most obvious one to deduce, probably involves the sun crashing into the ground and going kaboom, very similar to John Lee's Planet Befall. Her elemental skill is a little harder to figure out. I tend to think it may involve those geysers from before and probably something about regeneration. I don't think she's gonna heal herself, nor that she uses shields, especially since the Pyro Archon is known for her might in combat, so a shield may make her look weaker because it could mean that she needs to protect herself, but maybe her skill could be something like a mix between Bennett's Fantastic Voyage and Dia's Fiery Sanctum Field. It may boost or imbue the active character with Pyro, and on hit the geysers come out underneath the enemy dealing Pyro damage. And now it's time for our next topic. As we saw in my Fontaine video and with the Archons in general in my Archons video, I found a correlation between the Archons and the Hypostasis through the Tarot cards, the Kabbalah and the Hebrew numbers. The Pyro Hypostasis was the reason why I even tried to find some kind of correlation, because it was very strange that the Electro, Animal, Cryo and Geo Hypostasis were number 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then the Pyro Hypostasis was number 16, so there had to be something behind this. Anyway, a yin, number 16, is connected to the tarot card number 15, the Devil, which is the 16th card of the Tarot Major Arcana. The card shows a half-man, half-animal being with vampire bat wings, an upside-down pentagram over his head, harpy feet perched on an altar. Below him there are two people, a woman and a man, with horns and tails, chained to the devil, but the chains are very loose so they can leave whenever they want to. The Devil card upright represents our inner demons, the things we give our power away to. It also represents duality and choice like the Lovers, the Dendro card, but the Devil is more about giving in to a short-term gratification that leads to a long-term agony. The Devil can also represent the strong bond between mother and a newborn child. It could also mean being tricked into a situation where you have no control over the outcome, but also obsessive thoughts, paranoia and phobias. Reverse, the card means letting go of everything that stops you from reaching your goal, but also dark secrets that are kept from others. It can mean that it's time to reclaim your power and that it's also time for new beginnings. Originally, the card showed Baphomet, a being worshipped by the Knights Templar, and it was a symbol of balance. It represented good and evil, man and woman, and so on. Baphomet's origins are probably Gnostic and Templar, being a symbol of equilibrium of energies within and outside the human body and mind. We will discuss how this could relate to the Pyro Archon later in the video, because we need to talk about Natlan first. I tried to find something about what Natlan's story could be about with very low expectations, because we don't really have much that could give us an indication. In my Fontaine video, at least the people's clothing style hinted at the Ancien Regime, so I had an idea, but there are no NPC from Natlan. As I was wandering online though, unexpectedly, I think I hit jackpot. I researched the Aztecs mythology and I found something really interesting. The solar and war deity of sacrifice, Huitzilopochtli. He was the patron of the Aztecs, or as he wanted them to call themselves, the Mexica, and he was also the patron of the capital city, Tenochtitlan. This god wielded as a weapon Xucoatl, the fire serpent, so he was associated with fire. This seems to be the right god to research since Murata was the goddess of war and the lady of fire, so it fits pretty well. The god's name is composed of two words, Huitzlin, which means hummingbird, and Opochtli, which means left-hand side, so his name can be translated as left-handed hummingbird or hummingbird of the south, because left was associated with south. Considering how we have the Northlander billet and the Midlander billet, I guess Natlan is going to have the Southlander billet at this point. Hummingbirds were spiritually important for the Aztecs. Warriors who died in war and women who died during childbirth were transformed into hummingbirds and joined Huitzilopochtli in his temple. Hummingbirds are also very particular. In winter they go sleep on trees and they appear to be dead, but when hibernation is over in spring, they appear to be reborn. When it comes to Huitzilopochtli's origin story, as it often happens in ancient mythologies, there are multiple ones. One of them, which seems to be the most promising one in relation to Genshin Impact, talks about his mother, the fierce goddess Coatlicue, who already had 400 male sons, the Sensonite Nawa, and a daughter, Koyoshauqui. One day, the mother was somehow impregnated by a ball of feathers that she found, and her children grew angry about the manner in which this happened, so they decided to put an end to her. In some story they manage to do it, in others they don't, but still Huitzilopochtli suddenly burst from his mother's womb, already grown up, and defeated the siblings. His sister's head was thrown in the sky and turned into the moon, and the bodies of his many brothers were also scattered in the sky, becoming the stars. That's the reason why the sun, Huitzilopochtli, always pursues the moon and the stars in the night sky, so the day and night cycle. When it comes to the people, the Aztecs or Mexica, their story is also very interesting. Their history begins with the 7 tribes who lived in Chicomostoc, their mythical origin place. One day they decided to leave. They collectively took the name of Nahualteca people and settled near Aztlan, also known as the ancestral home of the Aztecs. I guess you've already realized how the name Aztlan and Natlan sound similar. Later on, the people left Aztlan and became wandering people. It is speculated that this happened around 1064 when a star collapsed into a supernova and turned into the Crab Nebula, which, when it happened, it was very visible in the sky with the naked eye. Now, we know that many Natlan tribes decided to leave their nation and became wandering people, just like Vanessa's tribe. Huitzilopochtli told his people that they shouldn't call themselves Aztecs anymore but Mexica, and that they were looking for a specific sign that would indicate where to settle and build their city. Legend says that in the past, Huitzilopochtli basically abandoned his sister, Malinalxochtitl. Her son, Copil, angered by this, decided to seek revenge and confronted his uncle, but things escalated and Huitzilopochtli's men defeated Copil. They took his art and threw it in a swamp, and from it a nopal or a cactus grew. The sign that the Mexica people were looking for was an eagle with a snake in its beak perched on that nopal. This kinda reminds me of the heart on Aberius, if I have to be honest. Anyway, they eventually found this sign, and there they built their capital, Tenochtitlan, which became the largest and most powerful city in Mesoamerica. The city was divided into 4 zones, each divided into 20 districts or calpulis, each having a marketplace. In the middle of the city there was a 500 meter or 1600 feet wide sacred walled square in which there were the temples, the Tlachtli, the ballgame court, and a platform for the sacrifices. The ballgame court makes me think that we're gonna play ball in Natlan, maybe? Anyway, the most important temple was Hueyteocalli, the Templo Mayor. It was built in the exact spot where Huitzilopochtli told his people he saw the sign, and it was a pyramid with 2 temples on top, one for Huitzilopochtli and one for Tlaloc, the god of rain and agriculture. The 2 gods had the same status because they complemented each other. Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun, provided fair weather for the crops, while Tlaloc provided the rain when the sun was too much. As we've seen in Genshin Impact, there's always a dramatic duality with the Archons. Venti and the Bard, Zhongli and Guizhong, Ei and Makoto, Kusanali and Rukadevata, so Murata will also have someone dear to her who died in the past, and they could be based on the god of rain Tlaloc. Some more interesting facts from the Aztecs mythology that may or may not appear in Genshin Impact are that the people had to make constant daily sacrifices for Huitzilopochtli to give him enough strength and prevent the coming of the Infinite Night. Of course, we won't see any sacrifice in the game, especially considering how gruesome they were in the Aztec age, but the fact that the god needed to be given constant power by the people to stay alive is very interesting. In some legends, Huitzilopochtli was in contrast with his brother, the famous Quetzalcoatl, the wind god of Gets of civilization who represented life. I also found something extremely interesting when it comes to the creation of the world and how the Aztecs believe it was made. There were 2 primordial gods, Omechihuatl and Ometecutli, who had 4 children. Xipetotec, the god of life, death and rebirth, Tezcatlipoca, the night sky, hurricanes, obsidian and conflict, Quetzalcoatl, the wind, and Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun and war. I mean, do I need to point out the fact that the sibling gods are 4 like the shades? Back to the myth of creation, from pre-existing matter, Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl decided to create the vertical and horizontal universes. The horizontal universe was represented by the cardinal points, while the vertical universe was composed of the overworld, the middle world, and the underworld. The overworld was supported by 4 gigantic trees, which prevented the overworld and the underworld from joining with Tlalticpac, the earth, which was formed from the body of Chipactli, a crocodile fish toad kind of sea monster. Now, the overworld and the underworld may appear in Genshin Impact, or at least I think it would be really cool. Getting a new underground map isn't that strange or novel at this point, especially after Sumeru, and I guess at that point Fontaine as well, since we were hinted at the possibility to dive underwater, but an overworld would be a first. The underworld is composed of 9 levels, where the souls of the dead are faced with different challenges to reach the place where they can finally rest. What's interesting, I think, is the place where banners are raised, because remember the Shadowy Husk standard bearer from before? He is a Pyro user and he uses a banner as his weapon. While the overworld may be used to explain the fake sky. There are 13 levels, as you can see, each hosting something different like the moon, the stars, the gods, and strangely also colors. Considering the sky of Tevat, we can clearly see the moon, the stars are just giant rocks, and there's Celestia, which is where the gods live. Now, in the Aztecs overworld, there's Venus, which is the only planet that is somewhat named in Genshin Impact through Hesperus and Phosphorus in Enkanomiya, but there are also 2 primordial gods, which brings back my theory about Lilith and Samiel or Asmodeus that I've talked about in my Ashikai discussion videos. If that's not enough, the overworld is also described as the celestial columns, which obviously reminds us of the heavens where we met Sasti, and beneath the earth, but before the underworld, there's water, just like the abyss in Genshin Impact. I'm not saying that the abyss is made of water, but the word abyss is normally associated with deep waters. At this point, what I can speculate about Natlan from the Aztec story is that we will probably see many hummingbirds or fiery ones similar to Signora's flame moths or the Pyro hypostasis fire butterflies. By the way, we already have a correlation between butterflies, Pyro and the dead in Genshin Impact through Hu Tao and maybe in Honkai because of that one Murata's cutscene. There's also a chance that hummingbirds may be the next elemental spirits like the Aranara or the Genie, since Mexican tribes believe them to be messengers from the afterworld or manifestation of a dead person's spirit. Which takes me to a very important fact about Murata, or Murata, I still don't know how to call her. Anyway, she's supposed to be dead. When we talked to Ganyu during the rite of parting, she clearly stated that only Morax and Barbaros were the original Archons, the others had already died. We also learned about Lesolor Kusanali and about A from Ganyu, and we've known all along that the new Hydro Archon was the god of justice. We know that the Tsaritsa is the new Cryo Archon, but what about Natlan? Nothing. We just know that 1000 years ago Murata was alive since Venti talked about her with Vanessa. So we know about the original Pyro Archon, but we know nothing about the substitute. And here comes my theory, which is always the same as back in August. Murata is not entirely dead, which means that she's either a consciousness ruling over Natlan and she's being kept alive by her people, just like Huitzilopochtli was kept alive by his people, or she's about to die but she's hanging on for a very long time, probably since Kharia. To understand why I'm somewhat sure about this kind of story, we need to talk about her potential Ars Goetia name. When it comes to the Ars Goetia, I'm sticking with my theory from the Archon video back in August. I still think, and after this research I'm even more convinced, that Murata's demon name is going to be Ami. Now in my Archon's video I kept saying Amy and it sounded like Fischl's real name, but still, take it up with Solomon, he wrote the demon's names, not me. Anyway, I think it's going to be Ami because he is represented as a humanly shaped pillar of flames and he was an angel who was tricked into joining the rebellion against God, which sounds just like one of the meanings of the Devil Tarot card. Ami created a miniature sun that imploded into a supernova that hurt him as well, but he believes this is his punishment from God for his rebellion. In case it wasn't clear enough, he turned into a sun and Huitzilopochtli was the sun, and he imploded, just like the Pyro enemies do, into a supernova, the same thing that led the Aztecs to leave Aztlan and look for the destined land. At this point, I can't think that these are all just coincidences, the facts line up too much. So, in the end, what's my prediction? Like I said, I think we will find a nation that's pretty much ruled by no one. People may be distraught by this and by the fact that they need to help Murata stay alive until a substitute can be found, or better yet, a vessel in which Murata can be reborn into. And to find this successor or vessel, the people of Natlan may have transformed their traditional fighting tournaments into some kind of tournament to decide the strongest fighter in Natlan and, as a consequence, the best successor. I think this is hinted at by the name of the Archon quest, Incandescent Ode of Resurrection, and by the Latin inscription beneath it, Surge vir fortis in natam victoriam, which I translated as Rise, strong man, and go to the victory that's rightfully yours by birth. My translation is very different from the wiki one because I studied Latin for years and I needed to highlight the word natam since it implies something that is deserved by birth, which is very important since Dainslev says that
the rules of war are woven in the womb.
And it's also very important since Huitzilopochtli burst from his mother's womb already grown. What Dainslev says after that also lines up with my idea of a tournament.
The victors shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash.
During Nahida's quest, we saw a new god being made, and we usually get some indication of what's to come in the future from previous Archon quests, or from quests that are related to the Archons. So after seeing a god being almost created, I think we were hinted at a possible quest in which we will help creating a new god ourselves, and since Fontaine and Snezhnaya clearly have a god already, Natlan is actually the best candidate for this since there's no clear indication of the substitute Pyro Archon and everything seems to be talking about Murata, who should already be dead. After that, Dainslev says something that's very similar to the description of the tarot card the Devil.
When the god of war shares this secret with the traveler, it is because she has her reasons.
Considering that the card can also mean keeping a dark secret from other people. Interesting also is the fact that the god of war is a woman. This could mean that Dainslev is either talking about Murata or about her successor, which in this case would be another goddess despite the Latin inscription talking about a strong man. But as we've seen with Kusanali and Rukkhadevata, most of the times the gods are called with male names despite them being women. Now at this point I don't really think we're going to see another male god except for John Lee and Venti, but there is a very tiny chance that, just like Venti is Wendy in Honkai Impact, Murata, being a Honkai character herself, may become a male god in Genshin Impact. If we read the description of the Agnidas Agate gemstone, it says, a pilgrimage for a wish, a battle to earn a name, burned to cinders for a dream. If the intention yet remains, achieved someone's truth he has. Some Natlan's tribes are wanderers, so that could explain the pilgrimage. The battle to earn a name could be the tournament I was talking about before, and maybe this name that this person is earning will be the thing that will burn to cinders for a dream, which could be Murata's revival or rebirth. And then there's a male unknown character who will achieve someone's truth if the intention remains. Best bet would be that the redacted name could be Murata's true or demon name, and the male character could be the winner of the tournament who will become the vessel for her rebirth, earning the name Murata, which I think it's a title rather than an actual name. Basically the birth of a new but also old god at the same time. Now, tiny spoiler about Honkai here, but I think it's pretty old news at this point, so it shouldn't be a spoiler anymore. I don't think the Honkai players will be happy if Murata died in Genshin Impact 2. And that's it. I really hope you liked the video. This was supposed to be a short, easy video, but as you can see, it definitely wasn't. I wasn't expecting to find so much, but it sure was interesting to research a mythology I've never approached before in my life. Since we're just 3 days before version 3.5 gets released, I think the video about Snezhnaya may end up being postponed. We saw in the livestream that we're getting a ton of lore in this new update, especially about the Unified Nation and about Khaenri'ah, so that's definitely getting prioritized. As always, if you liked the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and if you enjoy Genshin Impact Theory videos, consider subscribing. If you have doubts, questions or theories, let's discuss them together in the comment section. Remember not to talk about leaks or to at least hide them, as I told you at the beginning of the video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, over and out.